there, you're listening to a New Year's Day bonus episode of the Estranged Heart podcast, and I'm your host, Kreed Revere. Welcome back to our returning listeners, and if this is your first time here, we welcome you. Thanks for stopping by. Settle in, grab a cup of coffee or tea, relax, and listen with an open heart. But first, a disclaimer. I'm not a therapist or a counselor. Nothing within this podcast should be construed as therapy. If you are in need of therapeutic support, such as counseling, please seek out a therapist or counselor near you. And as with every episode, bonus or not, I like to begin with a quote. Let go, step into fear, and ride the winds of vulnerability and grace. And that happens to be a quote of mine. So as I contemplated today's episode, I felt it was important to give some sort of closure to 2021 and a welcome of 2022. I'd like to first start off by saying thank you for the wonderful, kind and generous and gracious reception that the Estranged Heart podcast has received. I appreciate each and every one of you who tune in and listen, who have reached out to me through Facebook, through Instagram, or by direct email, and have shared your stories with me and have allowed me to, a peek inside of your estrangement stories and your lives. I recognize that those are very personal stories, and I hold those with reverence and confidentiality. And as we move into 2022, I will be sharing your stories. Those of you who have given me permission to do so with our listeners. And so thank you again for, welcoming the Estranged Heart podcast into your worlds. I'm super grateful. And as we move into 2022, I wanted to kind of give you just a little insight as to a couple of things that will be forthcoming this year. The first one of those things is I will be hosting Saturdays with Kreed. I'm not entirely sure what the name of it will be yet, but where we will meet once, maybe twice, in a series of months, probably 5 months, for those who wish to join me, with a very dedicated and strict focus on very specific topics that pertain to estrangement. Ideally, I would like to be able to meet with estranged parents on one Saturday and with estranged adult children on another Saturday. Again, we'll have very specific topics that we'll be talking about. We'll share some of our stories with one another, but again, I will host some discussions around some very specific topics related to estrangement. And so stay tuned for that. The second thing that will be forthcoming is I will be entering the world of Patreon. For those of you who would like to show some support for the Estranged Heart podcast, that will be forthcoming probably mid-year. And then the third thing is eventually there will be some workshops that I will be hosting and, helping you to move through the pain of estrangement, and whether that is into reconciliation, or if reconciliation is not a possibility for you, into having more peace within for yourself and being able to move on with your life and getting out of being stuck. So those are some of the things that will be forthcoming. Also forthcoming at the very end of the year, look for my estrangement and reconciliation memoir. So I'm still working on that. So those are some of the exciting things coming in 2022. I'd like to kind of just briefly go over tonight the ritual of reflection for 2021, and how I do that for myself is I journal. I think it's really important for us to recognize all the little things that occur in our lives over the course of 365 days, because we can get lost. Those things can get lost in the big scheme of things, right? We can see the big picture and lose sight of all the little accomplishments, the little wins. And I think it's really important to recognize those instead of allowing them to get lost in the bigger picture, which is oftentimes colored with gray from the experience of estrangement. So I urge you to reflect back on 2021 and physically write out some of your wins from this past year. And then as you move into 2022, one of the things that I do is I choose a word every year for myself based on what I would like to experience in the coming year. And I'll give you an example. My word for 2021 was connection. And when I reflected back on that over the last couple of days, again, doing my review of 2021, I was really astounded to see all of the connections I had made last year. Again, we kind of lose sight when those little things are happening over the course of a year. And so it was really helpful for me to go back and see, oh, I made this connection and that connection and things like that. But the biggest connection for me, obviously, was the connection I made with my daughters and having the conversation with them about what led to our estrangement. That was a massive connection. And so I spend usually New Year's Eve is my process, and I choose my word for the coming year. So I've chosen my word for 2022. I don't ever disclose those words until the end of the year. It's something very private to me. And then I also select 3 to 5 words, which is what Danielle Laporte calls her core desired feelings. And if you want to know more about that, I'd encourage you to Google her. And again, her name is Danielle Laporte. And these are just feelings that, kind of navigate my world throughout the coming year. And it's based on how I want to feel. And so every decision that I make, I refer back to these, what I call CDFs, again, core desired feelings. And I check in with myself. Is this decision that I'm about to make, if I say yes or if I say no, will that decision bring me more of these 3 to 5 feelings in ways of being in the world? So it's just something that you might want to try, again, to try to get yourself out of the stuckness and depression that can be brought on by estrangement. So just a little something, if you Google Danielle Laporte and CDFs, you'll come up with a whole host of options where you can go and find hundreds of these feelings and experiences and write them down and then narrow them down, which is what I do every year. And again, I don't discuss those until the end of the year. So again, something to reflect upon. Another thing that I want to go over with you on this bonus episode before I close is something that I found on Instagram. Someone that I follow there, and it was some journal questions for the new year. To quote this person, it says 10 journal questions for the new year to keep you on the path leading you back home to yourself in 2022. And so I'd like to share these with you, just some food for thought, something to maybe ponder on. And again, giving you something to think about, again, kind of spurring that sense of curiosity maybe, and see what you think. How does it sit with you? If it works for you, great. And if it doesn't, if it doesn't work for you, then file 13 it. But I find great value in this type of reflection and journaling. And so the first one is, who do I want to be a year from now? Think about that. Who do you want to be a year from now? And try to think of this outside of the only context of estrangement, right? We all want to be reconciled by the end of a year, but outside of that, who do you, as a human being, as a person, not necessarily as a mother, but as a human being in person, who do you want to be? The next one is, what big work do you want to be doing this year? And I believe that this person is referring to, what type of big work? What do you want to work on personally for yourself? What kind of inner work do you want to do? The next one is, what fears do I want to face and work to conquer? Or, also written here, is to come into relationship with, and I prefer that over conquer. What fears do I want to face and come into relationship with over the coming year? The next one is, what word do I want to sit with, make room for, and live into in 2022? And again, that's kind of like that word I choose for each year, and my word last year having been connection. The next one is, what energies do I want to uninvite from my life this year? What kind of feelings do you want to say thank you for your time and that you've spent with me, but I think this is where we part ways with. And again, this is you as a person. This is not necessarily you as a mom, or you as an estranged adult child, or you as a estranged dad, but you as a person, right? And another one is, what is there within me that I want to begin to see with more clarity, courage, and compassion? Again, what is there within me that I want to begin to see with more clarity, courage, and compassion? And what if these were the last 12 months of my life? How would I live my year? How would you live your year? And again, for you as a person, we all recognize we would want to have our children in our life if this was our last year on earth. But if that's not possible, what other ways would you want to live if this were your last year? The next one is, what adventures, attempts, successes do I want to be recording in my journal at the end of 2022? So remember, I talked about at the beginning of this bonus episode, reviewing and reflecting on what we experienced in 2021. So setting it up for 2022, what type of adventures and attempts and challenges do you want to be recording in your journal at the end of the year? And how do I want to be in relationship with my life over the course of this year? How do you want to be in relationship with yourself, with your life? What does that mean to you? And again, you as a person, not necessarily as a mom or as an estranged adult child, but you as a person. So I hope you'll give it some time to reflect on some of these things that I've talked about today, and think about stepping into 2022 with conscious awareness and intent to take charge of your life, to be present in your life instead of just quote unquote going through the motions. And again, I recognize estrangement makes that very challenging at times, but I'm encouraging you to build your curiosity muscles and, perhaps take advantage of some of these things that I mentioned coming in 2022 that could potentially help you be able to build those curiosity muscles and be able to move through your estrangement experience instead of getting stuck in it. So I will bring this bonus episode to a close. Again, thank you for sticking by and listening. I wish you much love, blessings, and peace for 2022. And again, if there is any way that I can help support you, please reach out. I'm here to help as best I can. And again, my contact information, you can find me through Instagram, through Facebook, both at The Estranged Heart, and then via email. And that email address is theestrangedheart@gmail.com. Until next time.